Caitlyn Clark, a name now synonymous with basketball greatness, has had an extraordinary journey from high school superstar to becoming one of the most dominant players in women's basketball. But it wasn't always this way. In fact, her rise to stardom is as much about defying expectations as it is about her undeniable talent. A pivotal moment in her career came when she faced one of the most renowned coaches in the game, Geno Auriemma, and left him humiliated after a key rejection. Today, we explore the shocking series of events that led to this moment and how it forever changed the trajectory of both her career and Auriemma's legacy. The dream of UConn and the harsh reality. For Caitlyn Clark, like many young players, the dream was clear. She wanted to play for one of the most prestigious programs in women's basketball, the University of Connecticut, known as UConn. This was the powerhouse, the dynasty that had produced legends like Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Breanna Stewart. For Clark, this wasn't just any school. It was the pinnacle. It was the dream that every aspiring basketball player set their sights on. As she would later admit in interviews, she loved UConn. She thought they were the coolest program on earth. It was the place she envisioned herself, wearing that iconic UConn jersey, leading the team to victory. But here's where the story takes a shocking turn. Despite her immense talent and recognition as one of the top high school players in the country, Caitlyn Clark's path to UConn was far from straightforward. She revealed that UConn's interest in her was lukewarm at best. A few calls were made to her high school coach, but the legendary coach himself, Geno Auriemma, never once reached out to her directly. In fact, Auriemma, known for spotting future stars before anyone else, had completely overlooked Clark, opting instead for other recruits. When questioned about this later, Auriemma's response felt more like an excuse than a legitimate explanation. He claimed that he had already secured a commitment from Paige Buchers, a top-tier point guard, and didn't want two players of the same position competing for the same spot. But here's the part that really stung. Auriemma suggested that if Clark really wanted to play at UConn, she should have called him. Imagine that, a coach of his stature, dismissing one of the most talented young players in the country and then blaming her for not making the first move. The rejection that changed everything for Caitlyn Clark. That moment of rejection was more than just a missed opportunity. It was the spark that ignited a fire within her. Instead of letting that rejection define her, she used it as fuel. Rather than take the traditional path that so many young players follow, Clark decided to carve her own path, to build her own legacy, and to prove that she didn't need UConn's approval to succeed. Clark made the decision to attend Iowa, a program that at the time wasn't seen as a powerhouse like UConn. Iowa wasn't the dynasty. It didn't have the same legendary reputation. But what Iowa offered was something Clark valued far more than the prestige of UConn: freedom. At Iowa, she wouldn't be just another player in Auriemma's system. She would be the star, the centerpiece, the player the team was built around. From day one, Clark took control and Iowa quickly became her team. The fans began to flock to Iowa City. The gym was packed, and every game became a showcase for Clark's incredible skills. Her three-pointers from deep became a trademark. Shots so far out, they left defenders shaking their heads in disbelief. But these weren't just impressive shots. They were statements. With every shot, Clark was declaring that women's basketball was changing, and she was the one pushing it into the future. The growing empire, Caitlyn Clark's dominance. As her career progressed, Caitlyn Clark didn't just fill arenas. She turned them into rock concerts. The fans weren't just coming to watch basketball. They were coming to watch Clark, to witness history in the making. Her highlights were everywhere. Social media exploded with her clips, making her an overnight sensation. TV ratings for women's basketball, which had once plateaued, began to break records. Networks that had ignored women's sports for years now reshuffled their schedules to ensure Clark was front and center. Her rise wasn't an accident. She didn't stumble into this fame, she demanded it. She didn't need UConn's banners to validate her greatness. She didn't need Geno Auriemma's approval. What she needed was the freedom to create her own path, and that's exactly what she did. In her first season at Iowa, she made it clear that she was going to be the player to watch. She wasn't just playing for a program, she was playing for herself and the millions of fans who were watching her break down barriers. Meanwhile, Geno Auriemma, who had once dismissed Clark, was watching from the sidelines. Instead of admitting his mistake, he doubled down. His comments about Clark were mixed with praise on one hand and subtle jabs on the other. He couldn't let go of the fact that Clark had rejected him, and that feeling of being overshadowed by a player he had once overlooked seemed to eat away at him. The meltdown. Auriemma's embarrassing attack is. Clark continued to break records and defy expectations. Auriemma couldn't help himself. In a now infamous interview on The Dan Patrick Show in June 2024, he went on the attack. This time, his criticism wasn't just about Clark. It was about her fans. He called them delusional and stupid, saying that they were giving women's basketball a bad name. His outrage was centered on one particular claim, that these fans believed Clark could finish in the top 4 of the WNBA MVP race in her rookie season. Auriemma laughed off the idea, calling it pure fantasy. He claimed that those who believed in Clark were just ignorant about the professional game. But here's the thing. Auriemma was wrong. Caitlyn Clark didn't need his validation, and in the end, her performance on the court was more than enough to silence every doubter. She finished in the top 4 of the MVP race, exactly where those delusional fans had predicted. The ultimate revenge. Caitlyn Clark's success. Caitlyn Clark didn't need to fight back with insults or social media posts. She didn't need to clap back or fire off angry tweets. Instead, she did what she does best. She played the game. And with every shot she made, with every victory she earned, she left Auriemma's comments in the dust. It was the ultimate revenge, and it came without a single word from her. Her rookie season in the WNBA was nothing short of spectacular. She earned Rookie of the Year honors, made the All-WNBA first team, and finished 4th in the MVP voting, exactly where her fans had predicted. Every moment she spent on the court was a victory for her and for every fan who believed in her. She didn't need to fight for attention. She earned it through her performance. The ironic twist. Auriemma's desperate move. As Clark's dominance grew, Auriemma's obsession with her only deepened. The more she succeeded, the more he couldn't stop talking about her. But his comments were always tinged with bitterness. Instead of acknowledging her greatness, he tried to diminish it by focusing on her supporters. And then, in a stunning twist of irony, Auriemma tried to take credit for the very movement he had once rejected. In a jaw-dropping interview, Auriemma remarked, "You all jumped on Caitlyn Clark's flat back and went straight up." In his mind, he believed that the fans, the media, and even the league itself were all riding on the coattails of a phenomenon that he and his generation of coaches had created. It was a desperate attempt to cling to relevance in a changing landscape, but it was clear to everyone that Clark was the driving force now. The final act, the $1 million rejection, as Auriemma's program continued to struggle in comparison to Clark's meteoric rise. The legendary coach was faced with a difficult reality. He needed Caitlyn Clark more than he ever realized. In an attempt to save his own reputation and his new venture, the unrivaled 3-on-3 league, Auriemma made an unprecedented move. He offered Clark a deal worth over $1 million for just 8 weeks of play, but Clark, who had built her own empire without him, rejected the offer. In a single moment, she turned the tables. She didn't need Auriemma's approval, and she didn't need his money. Her rejection wasn't just a statement to Auriemma. It was a statement to the entire basketball world. She didn't need the old guard to validate her greatness. She was building her own legacy on her own terms. Conclusion. The passing of the torch. Caitlyn Clark's rise isn't just about basketball. It represents a generational shift, a changing of the guard. Auriemma, once seen as the kingmaker, was dethroned by a rookie who never needed his approval. Her rejection was the ultimate revenge. Quiet, but devastating. As Clark's star continues to rise, one thing is clear. The future of women's basketball is in her hands, and the old guard has been left behind. Will Auriemma ever admit his mistake? Probably not. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that Caitlyn Clark has proven that greatness doesn't come from validation. It comes from within. And in doing so, she has redefined what it means to be a legend in the world of sports.